Good morning, Hosho staff, students, and families. Yateabin. Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Our voices are off and our bodies are still. Eyes are on the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, October 5th, and we're ready to start a new week together. Mrs. Neff has found another selection for us, and it's from a familiar composer, someone we have studied before. So I'm going to play a little bit of it. You listen, and I'll tell you what we're listening to. Okay, friends. Remember, we studied the composer Camille Saint-Saëns, right? What was his piece that he composed that we've already listened to? Carnival of the Animals, The Swan. Well, this is still Carnival of the Animals, but it's of a different animal. So we listened to The Swan. This is Carnival of the Animals, The Aquarium. Do you have an aquarium at home? Do you know what an aquarium is? So if you have lots of fish in a tank, and maybe you've been to an aquarium where you've seen lots of different kinds of fish in lots of different tanks, or maybe you just have one tank and you've seen fish inside of a tank. That's an aquarium, when we keep fish inside of a tank. And so this piece is Carnival of the Animals, The Aquarium. So when you listen to it, what do you notice? Let's listen to it one more time, a little bit. It's sort of peaceful. Maybe you can sense some bubbles and some soft movement, right? It's not harsh, it's not loud, it's not a lot of percussion in this one. We have flute and strings, listening to Carnival of the Animals, The Aquarium. But the same composer that we had listened to before, Camille Saint-Saëns, Carnival of the Animals, The Swan. So let's see, maybe we can find that one here and we can listen to that one again. This is Camille Saint-Saëns, Carnival of the Animals, The Swan. Can you picture in your mind a swan floating across the water? Isn't it interesting how a composer writes and the music that they compose depicts or has an image in our mind of a certain thing. And a lot of them were about animals, right? The swan, we have the flight of the bumblebee, we have now the aquarium, and it also depicts seasons like spring and summer and winter, how composers use music to make us think and feel a certain way. It's interesting how they can do that. So for art this week, we also have another repeat of George Seurat. Do you remember this one? Who can remember the name of this piece? A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grande Jatte. That's right, it's a long title. And this was a person who lived at the same time as Camille Saint-Saëns. Maybe they knew each other, I don't know, because they were in France at the same time. France isn't that big. I think the artists probably hung out together and knew each other. So this is, and it's hard to see, and if you want to Google this and look at it, or if you come into the school, we have the huge picture of it. But it's pointillism. So there's these little tiny little dots, and they make up this whole picture. Tiny little dots to make this picture. Interesting in that this is about 1870-ish, probably, right around there. And this is how people dressed when they went on a Sunday afternoon walk. You can see them with their hats and umbrellas and long garments. This was just a day at the park back in the 1870s, en français. So, and the fashions were pretty similar in the United States also. Let's not forget this one. Who painted this from last week? Don't tell me you forgot in 1 week, or actually only a few days. Who painted it? Grant Wood. And it is The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. You can see him right there on his horse. The British are coming, the British are coming. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. Who wrote that poem? 4th graders, tell me, who wrote that poem? Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. That's right. In architecture, we want to make sure you know. U.S. Capitol Building. Okay, shout it out if you know. U.S. Supreme Court, which is which branch of the government? Judicial branch. And this, the White House, or the executive branch. This is the back of the White House. And our president was suffering from the coronavirus, seems to be on the mend. So that's good news. Don't want to forget this. Washington Monument. That's right. All of those buildings are where? Our nation's capital, which is Washington, D.C. That's right. When you're in 9th grade, we will go and see all these places firsthand. So in all of those buildings, there's a different role for each part of our government to play. Remember the 3 branches of government: executive, judicial, legislative, right? So there's a different role for everyone to play. But everything is based on, our government is based on the U.S. Constitution. Right? The United States Constitution, the oldest constitution in the world. That's right. And we're a pretty young nation, from only 1776 when we declared our independence from which country? England. That's right. And we declared our independence, that we were not going to be ruled by a king, that we could govern ourselves. And we've been doing it since 1776. Okay, so it's based on the U.S. Constitution, which outlines all of the different branches of government and the things that people will do and their jobs under all of those different branches of government, and how the government will run and how people will vote, and all of those things are all laid out. But the states did not want to ratify that Constitution without having protection for individual people, their individual rights that were declared in the Declaration of Independence. And so we came up, the founding fathers, our 4th president, who was James Madison, came up with the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. And so we've been learning those 10 amendments. So let's do the First Amendment together. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Right. First Amendment. Let's do it again. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. How are we doing? Have you got that memorized yet? Hope you're close. Then we have the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, let's do it together again. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Good job. Hopefully you're memorizing those two so we can move on. I was thinking maybe we should bring up the Declaration of Independence again too. Do you know what I forgot to do today? We forgot to do our poem. So I'm going to back up and do our poem. And so our poet this week is Emily Dickinson. And many of you probably remember that poet and the poem that I'm going to read to you this week, which is A Narrow Fellow in the Grass. Some of you have learned this poem because it's out of the 6th grade packet of poems that we memorize. And so if you're in 6th grade or have been in 6th grade, then maybe this poem is familiar to you. But we did it last spring when we had the shutdown also. And so some of the announcements had this poem also. So, but every year, every class, we redo our poems so that everyone has a chance to memorize them. So this one is A Narrow Fellow in the Grass by Emily Dickinson. If you don't know this poem, see if you can figure out what she's talking about. A narrow fellow in the grass occasionally rides. You may have met him, did you not? His notice instant is. The grass divides as with a comb. A spotted shaft is seen, and then closes at your feet and opens further on. He likes a boggy acre, a floor too cool for corn. But when a boy and barefoot, I more than once at noon have passed, I thought, a whiplash unbraided in the sun. When stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and was gone. Several of nature's people I know, and they know me. I feel for them a transport of cordiality, but never met this fellow, attended or alone, without tighter breathing and zero to the bone. Sort of a riddle. What do you think she's talking about? A narrow fellow, so narrow is thin, a thin, narrow fellow in the grass, and it moves through the grass, and when she sees it, she's suddenly taken back at it, and she feels tighter and zero to the bone. She has a cold feeling when she sees it. What's she talking about? What did she see? A snake. And as I've told you before, Mr. Hillock understands her feelings about snakes. He is not a fan of snakes. So, Narrow Fellow in the Grass by Emily Dickinson. We do have a few birthdays today. So Harshit and Ariana are both having birthdays today. So happy birthday to both of you. I hope you enjoy your day. We're coming down to the last week of the quarter. So make sure you're focusing on getting as much of your math done and your reading or literacy English work as you can get done. Then if you have time, do your other assignments in history and science and PE, other things that are posted there. But make sure you focus on spending the majority of your time getting math and English literacy reading caught up. Okay? If you are behind and you feel like you need help, reach out to your teacher, or parents, reach out to your child's teacher, and make sure you're staying in touch so that we know how to best help you. Make sure you're getting caught up. This was a kind of a hard thing to get going, and I think many of you are now starting to get the hang of it. You're starting to understand how to work on Canvas, and so we're getting better. And teachers are getting better about putting their work there, so everybody's getting stronger. But we have some work to catch up on. So if you're struggling, ask your teacher for help, or have your parents ask the teacher for help. Or you can always contact me if there's something that I can help you with as well. Okay, friends? So let's say our student pledge together. I will do the good, I will learn the true, and I will love the beautiful. And I hope you have a great Monday.